From battlefield to boardroom. Today, we have a truly inspiring guest, Richie Miller. Richie's story is a testament to the power of vision, resilience, and strategic action. After a distinguished 13-year career in the British Army, Richie made a bold leap into a world of property entrepreneurship. What's truly remarkable is how quickly and successfully he transitioned, building a multi-million pound property portfolio and co-founding an award-winning self-storage business, all while prioritizing a family and freedom. Richie joined us today to share his incredible journey, the challenges he faced, the creative strategy he employed, and the invaluable lesson he learned along the way. Get ready to be motivated and gain practical insights from someone who is truly designed a life of his own and on his own terms. Let's dive in. In these eye-opening conversation with Richie, he shares the motivation for making such a significant career change and transferable skills he leveraged from his military background. Stay tuned, get watching. Remember to like and subscribe. Richie, I'm so glad to have you here today. And for the sake of my audience, if you could introduce yourself, please.
Yes, thanks, Greg. Lovely to see you. Really pleased to be here today. So I'm Richie Miller. I'm a full-time property investor, entrepreneur with a couple of other businesses as well. I do some mentoring, helping people buy their first big property. I've got a self-storage business, a letting agency, as well as all the property investments.
Wow, it's so much in such a short time.
Yeah.
But Richie, your story is actually going back a few years, and I'm quite keen to understand, what motivates, because obviously you are ex-army, and just tell me, what rank have you managed to get up to while you've been with the army?
So I got up to a major. So I joined as an officer. I went to Sandhurst, Royal Military Academy Sandhurst for a year's training. I commissioned in summer 2008 and in the end did a 14-year career. So I was a major and I was in the Royal Logistic Corps.
14 years in the army, and I meet with some of my peers, and majority of them wants to really leave their 9 to 5 jobs, do something different. They already see that there's no reason to continue on that path. So what was your motivation to leave the army after 14 years and getting to a major rank?
So my plan was to join the army, have fun, play sports, go on some operational tours, see the world a little bit. And I was thinking in my head 5, 6 years at most, and then come out and get a real job, or a job that wasn't involving so much travel and being away so much. Overall, I enjoyed my career and I stayed in. And then when I got married, my life priorities started changing, and it wasn't just about me anymore, it was about my wife as well. And moving around so much, it was difficult for her to work and have a proper career and a job. It's either do I leave the army and she's the main breadwinner and we follow her career, or do we follow my career in the military and she move around and work around what I'm doing. And then our boys arrived, our 2 children arrived, and life priorities changed again. I was looking at where I am in my career after, at that point, about 8, 9 years being in the army. What were my annual reports like? What was my career trajectory going to be? Where would I end up at the end of the 20-year contract I had? And what would the pension look like? And doing some personal development, growth, and looking at different opportunities and different ways of earning money and stuff, I thought I could earn more with less work and a better quality of life and be in control of my life. That was the main one. I could choose where to live, I could choose when to work, I could choose how I spent my time rather than the army telling me and moving me around and stuff. That's when, after I got married, is when I started. It's a 5-year plan to get out of the army, and the plan was to buy property, leave the army as a multi-millionaire on a property portfolio and never work again. It didn't quite work out like that, but I'm working towards it.
Was there any other avenue that you could have considered at the time other than pursuing this property journey?
Yeah, so the army's good at setting you up. As an army officer, you've got loads of man management experience, leadership skills, and stuff that's really transferable to civilian jobs in the civilian world. We don't have technical knowledge about the particular industry we go and work in, but we can add a lot of value through the leadership and management skills and experiences that we bring from the military. It's relatively easy to get management sort of roles and stuff in the civilian streets when you leave the army. It never appealed to me. My dad's biggest regret was that he never bought a property, because he was in the army as well, and he spent his last 17, 18 years of his working life based in Germany. He retired from the army and got a civil servant's job, so when they were getting getting ready to properly retire and move back to the UK, he had to buy a house. And he had loads of military friends who bought properties over the years, and as an investment, as something for their pension pots and for a family home when they eventually left the military. It was always his biggest regret that he never bought a house. He bought Amazon's top 3 books on how to buy a property because he didn't know how to buy a property, had never done it before. And he gave me Simon Zutchi's Property Magic book. I'm too old for this, but I think you might find this interesting.
Has he read the book?
Yes, he did, yeah. I don't know what the other 2 books were, but he read all 3 of them, and he gave me the Property Magic one and said, you might find this interesting, I'm too old for it. And it opened my eyes to a relatively passive income, equity growth, having assets, cash flow for you that you then don't need to be working on. You're not exchanging your time for money anymore, creating assets, buying assets, and then living off the income from those.
I know the book. When I read the book, I actually felt cheated with my life, almost like, why haven't I known about any of this before? Let's touch up on these transferable skills that you've acquired during the service in the army. The people I talk to, they are stuck in these high executive roles in their businesses, and they know this is not the path they want to follow all the way until they retire. You said you've got those management, almost like entrepreneurial skills, because all the systems that you've got in the army, there's an order.
Yes.
And you've got to follow follow the system. I can see how you can transfer those skills into those executive decision-making roles, because obviously you're now on that spectrum where I need someone who's technical. How did you find the journey reading the book and leveraging on that knowledge that you just acquired, the knowledge? What was the aha moment going into that property? Was it after reading this exact book?
Yes, it was. That book opened my eyes to property investing and what was possible. The knowledge to do this and change your life through investing is relatively easy. You can become a crypto investor, trader. You can go into stocks and shares. You can go into property. There's all sorts of get-rich-quick schemes and things out there. The knowledge is really easy to come by. It's the execution and doing it that's the hard part. And for me in the military, we take action, we do things. If you don't, you could get shot. It's high pressure, it's tense, you might be sleep deprived, hungry, whatever the situation is, but you need to make a decision. You need to have clarity of thought, understand everything as best you can, and decide to go left or go right. And if you just stay still, it's not going to change. So you have to make that decision, and that's been one of the strengths, one of my superpowers from the military training, is I don't need all the information. I can get a good feel of the situation and I can make a decision. And then because we're moving forward and we're doing something, it's easy to pivot left, pivot right once we're moving. But when you're stationary, you can't move. You're just stuck. You need to start moving.
But there's something moving. So you're flowing. And as you're flowing, you're making that decision. So would you say that your key skills is understanding the situation, read the situation for what it is, and actually go for it, decide on the spot?
Yes, I'm good at the top level, big picture stuff. I don't get stuck in the detail too much and all the weeds. What action do we need to do? Let's do this, let's try this, let's go that way, rather than sitting there and analysing it and what if we do that, this might happen, if we go that way, that might happen. It's very rare to have 100% of the information and to know the outcomes that are always going to be there. It's impossible to know that. If you can work that out, you'll be a multi-billionaire because you know exactly what's going to happen in the future. No one can do that, so all you can do is make the best decision you can with the information you have at the time. Don't beat yourself up retrospectively looking back. What if? I should have, I could have. You didn't. You made a decision at the time, so accept that.
So
go forward.
At that time, before you become the person you are today, years of army experience and that go with the flow, seeing the bigger picture, and it's almost like, let's try this. This is an educated decision, educated guess, assumption. Let's go for it, rather than overanalyze and talk yourself out of it. Because I talk to a lot of what we call them from wealth dynamics. These people are lords, and exactly, and they will talk themselves out because they would overanalyze. That's their nature. That's how they do it. What wealth dynamics are you?
I'm a creator mechanic. So I'm a dynamo at the top of the square as you look at it.
You're a dynamo. So actually, this is quite natural for you to be there forefront of your organizations, trying things, making it happen, being on the field, literally from the field, from the battlefield onto the entrepreneur business field. So this may have been very natural for you. Was that the reason and decision to actually go big and pursue the high yield property deals?
It was jumping on opportunities it came. Everyone who starts in property, I'm going to invest a few properties and I'm going to start developing. I'm going to build blocks of flats. I'm going to build a row of houses and stuff. That's a very common aspiration and dream when people get into property investing. There are so many ways of creating wealth and finance in property, so many different strategies. I think you need to get good at one, whether it's a cash flow or a profit strategy, is two sort of basic ways of looking at it. Get good at it, and then rinse and repeat it a few times before you jump from shiny penny to shiny penny and try all these different things. I wanted cash flow to replace my salary from the army and get out, and I just jumped on different opportunities as they came along. My journey's been very sporadic with the different deals. I've not found a strategy and rinsed and repeated that one strategy lots. I've got several different strategies going. They're all working for me, but they're all one or two deals deep. I haven't found one thing and rinsed and repeated it lots.
What was behind Richie Miller's thinking? Because there's a lot of people listening to this podcast and thinking like, maybe because he was well trained in the army and he's a dynamo, so he's naturally out there cracking this stuff, taking the risk.
Yeah.
You just took every opportunity as it came, and have you went like all for it?
Yeah, I've gone all in. Having loads of knowledge is brilliant, but it makes you an academic. You need to do something with that knowledge and you need to take action. You are where you are now because of the daily habits and the decisions you were making 5 years ago. I'm where I am now because of the property stuff I started doing 8-9 years ago. And I'm going to be where I want to be in 10 years' time because of the things I'm doing today. So you've got to have the knowledge, but that knowledge is useless without taking action and positive steps. It's very simple, but it's not easy to do. It's very difficult to actually do and deliver it.
Having in mind you're a dynamo, I'm Blaze, though I'm also out there with people. Yep. But you clearly understand that you are there going and creating almost like a magnet for the opportunities because that's who you are.
Yep.
But you clearly understood that you're lacking at the other end of your spectrum, which is someone who can deliver it for you. Being a mechanic, I understand that you could create processes, but you actually need someone who can see all the way through, all the way to the end, because that's not you. Is that person Chris?
Yes, it is. Yeah.
Could you tell us about Chris, please?
Yeah, so Chris Chadwick is my business partner. He owns the letting agency that I use in Sheffield and manage most of my stuff. It's a privately family-owned business. He started investing in property 20 years ago himself, as well as the letting agency. He introduced me to the Marples, the big, massive HMO, the mega HMO, the 48-bed one that we've got. On the wealth dynamic stuff, he's complete opposite to me. I'm top middle, leaning left towards mechanic. He's bottom centre, leaning right. So we couldn't be more opposite to each other. And that's good because my strengths and what I flourish and in flow doing are his weaknesses and what he doesn't like doing.
So having that in mind, can you think of that exact situation in your property investment strategy when you were on your own, just going all for it, and now you've met Chris, and how that actually changed? So give something tangible to our audience, if you can, please.
My first 6-bed HMO, I had the vision for what I wanted it to be like. It was a mid-terrace, 6-bed, 1-bath, very old and run-down, tired student HMO. I spent time with the architect. He understood my vision of what we wanted, and we did a ground floor and first floor extension. We increased the internal floor space by 33%, kept it a 6-bed, but we made it 6 bathrooms as well. And then I passed it over to Chris's letting agency to sort of project manage the builder and the build team because I was in Surrey or Wiltshire at the time with the army. This was up in Sheffield, and Chris oversaw the project management for me through the letting agency. I had the vision, but I wasn't interested in the detail, but I physically couldn't do it. I was a full-time army officer, married with 2 young kids under 3. I couldn't be up on site every day, and it was rushed phone call at lunchtime and then catching up on emails in the evening. That was how I was staying on top of it, so I needed his ears and eyes on the ground. Fast forward now, we've just bought a block of 16 flats with 2 commercial units. I do the spreadsheet with the mechanic side of me. I create the systems and stuff. I then don't want to run the systems. I give them to Chris and he runs it and stuff. We've negotiated the price. We've bought it. I've taken it through conveyancing and I deal with the solicitors and stuff. Chris tells me the standard it's going to be and he project manages and oversees the refurb and changes the bathrooms, changes the kitchens, sorts out all of that. And then while he's doing all of that, I'm working on the end user. We're going to get it on a 5-year fully repairing and lease. I think wealth dynamics is a very convenient excuse not to do things you don't like. The reality is,
Interesting.
we can all do everything. And when you're a solo entrepreneur, it's just you need to do everything and you have to do everything. But there are going to
Yes.
things that sap your energy and things that give you energy. Working in partnership with Chris, I can focus on the areas that give me energy. He can focus on the things that give him energy. And because we're opposite to each other, it works really well. But I need his help on the things that give me energy. It's not his preference to do it, but he's got knowledge, skills, and experience that he can bring to it. And then I've also got abilities and skills and stuff that he can use on his areas that give him energy and flow and stuff.
And I think this is a fundament what people are missing out exactly what you said is just like, yes, we are entrepreneurs because when we decide to do something else other than the 9 to 5 work, that's how it all starts, from the idea
Yeah.
or from need, because there's a need to change something about it, or pain.
Yeah.
Perhaps pain is that motivating factor for you to actually go out and do something different because you're in pain of traveling, not seeing your family. And this is the factor when, yes, we are multitasking and we might even consider being good at it. But actually, that's the key. Some people don't even know how good they could be if they are joined forces with someone else. So we just need to find that Chris for everyone else.
Yeah,
Cool.
definitely.
Brilliant. So let's talk about this major investment at 48 bedroom mega HMO. It's in Sheffield, isn't it?
Yes, it is. Yeah, city centre Sheffield, just off the high street.
How do you even start negotiating a deal like this?
So I found my 6-bed HMO through landlord letters, so it was an off-market deal, and it worked well.
Landlord letters.
Yeah, it's a good 6-bed HMO. It broke the rental ceiling. It won a local Sheffield Council award for most improved property of the year, and it was good. It was a good project. And as we were finishing it off, I said to Chris, whose letting agency were looking after it and was overseeing the project management and stuff, this has worked well. I'm going to do more of these through my landlord letters. But as an agency, do you know of any good potential HMO things to do this? Chris laughed at me and said, what about an HMO on steroids? I laughed back at him, and it recently finished Simon Zutchi's 12-month mastermind program. I was like, with my knowledge and my network, if the deal stacks up, I can make it work. I can do it. I can find the money and I can find the skills and experience that I need, because that's what I've been taught on the course. And Chris's agency were doing tenant find for the landlords. The owners were 2 old boys who were retiring. They were selling a third of their portfolio and then taking a third each as their sort of pension and retirement. It was 1.8 million for the asking price, and as we bought it, the red book valuation for the mortgage lender came out at 1.8 million for the value, for market value on purchase. And they'd done a good job on the refurb and turning it into what it was 20 years ago, but for 20
Yes.
years they'd only ever done essential health and safety maintenance and upkeep. It was very tired, very run down. They had very high occupancy. They had a history of 100% occupied because rents were cheap. It was a fantastic location in the centre of Sheffield, right next door to Sheffield Hallam University.
Some people who are number savvy here, could you just give us some head numbers on this property?
Yeah, well,
48 bedroom HMO.
Yep. So I will also point out this was my 3rd ever property purchase. It's possible to go big on property. The principles are exactly the same as doing a 3-bed or a 6-bed HMO or something. It's not easy. It's just that word of caution that it's not easy. It can be quite stressful. So 1.8 million value and 1.8 million asking price. Negotiated a discount, so we bought it for 1.5 million. Being honest and talking with the broker, he understood exactly where we were in position to buy it and what the plan was for it. It wasn't cheap, but he found a lender that would lend at market value, not the purchase price. So
Wow.
the discount of 300,000, they recognised that and they counted that equity towards the deposit. So when you need a 30% deposit, just to keep around the numbers, on a 1.8 million purchase, you need about 600k deposit. That 300k counted towards it, so it reduced the deposit we needed by 300,000. And we applied multiple dwelling relief through the solicitors, and that reduced stamp duty down from 170 down to 60 something, I think it was 60 or 70 grand. And that's similar to what you would spend on buying and refurbing a 3 or 4 bed house into a 6 bed HMO. So if you look at it in those terms, it's not out of reach for most people. And with the money from 1 or 2 6 beds, they could put that into the Marples and done the Marples instead and bought 48 bedrooms rather than 12. Well, I had 2 problems with the purchase. One, I had no money. I was not experienced enough for any lender to give me a mortgage.
You had a broker who found you a really good deal, and also the lender has recognized that there was a discount in value, but that actually they lend you on the value of the property, not the price that you are paying for it, which is actually huge. And this was your third ever deal in the property.
Yep.
So that was the very early stages of your property game.
Yep.
And that's what I wanted to highlight, because your power team, that's what I want to highlight.
Yeah.
You were only very shortly into that property space game. You've already acquired a really good team that was able to get you such a good deal. Do you think that was a lack, or was that just actually through Chris's network that he brought these people into your team, basically?
So those people I met through Mastermind and PIN, recommendations from people. Who can you build a personal rapport with? Who's got time to give you a conversation, understand what you're doing, where you're going.
So networking, really, isn't it?
Yeah, all about the networking. It's who you know. Whether you're raising money or working professionals, it's the personal relationship you have with them that makes it work.
So apart from, because I understand you've done the 12 months Simon Zucchi's program, have you done a lot of networking outside of that program?
I used to be quite heavily involved with the PIN circuit, Property Investors Network. I used to be a speaker and go around and giving talks about the 48 bed place a couple of years ago. Honestly, I got fed up of the networking. Hi, I'm Richie. I'm investing in HMOs on blocks of flats. And what do you do? What do you invest in? And with the family, with being away lots with the army and stuff, I got what I needed from 2-3 years of networking, and I wanted to deliberately had a break from it so I could do the deals and making changes to my life rather than just being out talking about it all the time. So it worked really well and I needed it, but then I deliberately had a break for a couple of years and not doing much networking.
During the actual program, have you had any successes at all?
I bought my first property after reading his book before the Mastermind course. On the Mastermind program, I created a strategy, rent-to-rent serviced accommodation, before rent-to-SA became popular. This was 8-9 years ago. And I did that for cash flow, and I did it fully managed with paying someone to manage it for me. So I got 2 flats through a sourcer, and they were both rented out, paid for full management for SA. The best month I made £3,000 profit across the 2 flats. The worst month it cost me about £1,000 because occupancy levels were low. If I could get even just £1,000 a month coming in guaranteed, I would have carried on doing the SA model. But I didn't like the unpredictability. I wanted the safety net of every month I know I'm getting this much, and then I can feel safe leaving the army, leaving that salary to move on to the property portfolio. So that's when I switched to HMOs and started doing the landlord letters, and I bought the 6 bed, my first HMO, 2 months after the Mastermind course finished. I think we completed on it a month or 2 after the Mastermind course finished.
Obviously, having the right people, your power team, will be able to help you get that right deal, like on this 48 bedroom HMO, recognizing the discount in the purchase price. So, okay, that's the part of the power team. But let's go back to that deal. You've had a bit of a challenge with the actual funding with your partners. Tell us about this, please.
Originally, I had one partner who had a SAS pension with 800,000-900,000 in it, wanted to invest in property after having his career and retiring, and didn't have the energy to run around doing all the deals and speaking to vendors and stuff. So I was going to bring that energy and the knowledge from the Mastermind training. He was going to be the funding. He did the first viewing of the Marples with me. We both liked it. We went away and did the figures, agreed what we were going to do, the budget and what it's going to look like and the end values and stuff. So we arranged to go back up to Sheffield to meet the owners. Unfortunately, he couldn't come. Something came up, so he couldn't come with me. So I went up, I did the negotiation on my own, sat in a coffee shop over a table, and I shook this old guy's hand for 1.5 million. Came out, phoned my partner. Oh, brilliant, that's all good. Let me speak to the trustees of my SAS pension and we'll look at getting the funds released, and let's speak to solicitors and get timelines and contracts and all that stuff drawn up.
To you, at that moment, you're like, yes, I've got this property.
Yep.
Wow, my first deal, 1.5 million.
Yep.
I got it, you know. Hi, guy, you know, it's like, we just bought this, you know, this property. It was super exciting.
Yeah, super exciting.
What's happened next?
Then it turns out you can't use a SAS pension to buy student property. He didn't have the money outside of his pension pot, so he withdrew and said he he's not going to do it because he's not allowed to use his SAS pension to buy student property. So I'd shaken hands with this old boy. He was old fashioned. He liked the fact I'd driven up to Sheffield, had taken a day off work to come and see him face to face rather than doing it through the letting agent or through a broker or through solicitors. He appreciated the face to face meeting. Do I give him a ring and apologise and withdraw, or do I find the money from elsewhere? I decided one deal is going to be life-changing. This will be the income I need to replace the army salary if I can make it work. So let's do it. Let's go for it. Ended up being four of us. One, we formed a company, created a company. One decided to leave when it came to getting the money together and stuff. They decided to leave, so that was just three of us left. So we had the conversation early on with Chris, as the owner of the letting agency that was managing the property. He had the experience with that exact building and properties of that size. We offered Chris a couple of percentage ownership of the company. He would be part of the company to get us a mortgage. 6 months later, he was going to be bought out. We'd give him a fee to get out. It wasn't going to be a percentage ownership of the business. It was going to be, I can't remember what we agreed, a couple of £1,000 for his name being on there and getting the mortgage for 6 months, and then him leaving the company and retiring. So it was just me and my JV partner as 50-50 owners. When the JV partner pulled out, Chris was the first person I spoke to and said, do you want to come in, shareholder with me, but you need to bring some money as well as just your name on the mortgage now. So he brought 100 grand. My cousin came in with no property investing experience. He extended the mortgage on his own house, released 100 grand and came in with 100k.
It's a very bold move, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. Very bold move. I really respect him for doing it. A lot of trust in me and the property and stuff. So it ended up being just the three of us, and we raised the rest of the money that we needed. All in, we spent 630, 650, purchase costs and the refurb and stuff. Given the opportunity to exchange contracts almost 2 months before we completed, and then when we'd exchange contracts, we're going to be given access to the building to start ripping everything out and start the refurb.
That's very convenient, yes.
Yeah. Our mistake was hiring a project manager quickly. Very experienced, very competent, 3-bed conversions to 6-bed HMOs. Was very knowledgeable, but lacked the management experience to manage 15-20 people over 5 different floors. One day he would have 15-20 people on site and nothing for them to do because the materials weren't arriving until the next day. So as the project manager, handling stuff off the street into the building when a truckload of materials arrived, and then he's then spending a few days trying to get people back on site and stuff. My lesson from that and the mistake we made, we hired quickly and fired slowly, and then took a few weeks to get a new build team on site. I don't think they had to redo as much as they did, but they just wanted the money and wanted the work. So I added a couple of months onto the timeline, and it added over 100 grand onto the final bill for the refurb work. We eventually finished in February 2020, and then we were about 45% occupied in March 2020 when the first lockdown for COVID hit. Thankfully, it was after the refurb was finished, so it was a ready property, just needed filling up. And then we spent 2 years during COVID trying not to go bankrupt, trying to get occupancy high enough to cover or to get off the first expensive lending, refinance onto cheaper term lending that would release the equity to pay back our investors because we borrowed all the money. I put no money personally into this deal, zero money.
Well done to you.
Thank you.
It was 3 partnership, yes?
Yep.
Essentially, you had the deal and expertise of going to do it, and other people brought the money in, but you were all equal share partners.
Yeah, that's right.
Just leveraging from your skills that you've acquired on that property mastermind training. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's right. I think you need 3 things to invest in property. You need money, time, and knowledge. Anyone can get knowledge. You then need money. You can leverage other people's money. Money is easy to solve. Time is tricky. If you have a full-time job, you have a family, you have a life, you have hobbies, you do things. It's what time sacrifices are you willing to make the time to do property.
We're on the subject of mega deals. 48 bedrooms HMO. So how about the block of 16 flats? Tell us about that deal.
Chris's agency have been managing these flats for about 10 years. The owner is selling up, and he's retiring out to Spain to go and live in the sunshine. He said to the agency, I'm going to sell the flats, I'll accept a cheeky offer to get a quick sale. And Chris phoned him up straight away and said, if you're going to take a cheeky offer, you're going to take a cheeky offer from me. I'm going to buy it. It's 5 houses, 2 pairs of semi, and another semi next to them. They were the 5 houses are on 5 titles to flats. They're converted into 17 flats. One of those is being used as a commercial unit, and there's a We Buy Any Car depot in it. It's on one of the 4 arterial roads in and out of Sheffield, the busiest site in the UK. And then it's 16 residential flats, and then one of the garages in the back has been converted into an MOT garage that's run by a local family.
Wow. So 5 different properties on separate titles, and they've already been nicely converted a long time ago by Nigel to 16 flats. So mix use. For people who are not in the properties, the commercial unit is only as good as your tenant.
Yep.
And when you said that this is one of the best national site in Sheffield, there is a value in there.
Yes, there is. Yep.
How much work do you have to do to those 16 flats?
The conveyancing and the purchase process is exactly the same as buying a 3-bed. There's more zeros after each pound sign. The paperwork to get the mortgage, to do with the solicitors and the searches and all of that stuff is exactly the same. It's more money, 200,000 on a refurb on these 16 flats, changing all the kitchens, all the bathrooms, painting and decorating throughout, new flooring in most of them. There's one section of roof that needs replacing, and we've got a charity lined up who will sign a 5-year lease to do fully internally repairing and insuring, maintenance and costs and stuff covered as part of that lease. So we'll have one tenant paying a fixed amount each month.
Listen, people, nice little project. Almost as the same as you would buy the 3-bedroom house. So think twice. There's something distinctive about these 2 deals that you've done. First one is the 48-bedroom HMO, and this one with Nigel. In both cases, something that you mentioned was the key. First one was the person, your vendor, really appreciated that personal interaction with them, that relationship that you went there and you wanted to see them face to face. And on this occasion, this was like, already a relationship in place. Talk to me, please, about the importance of the relationship in this game.
It's vital. It's really key. So I had the relationship with the vendors on the Marples. I held that relationship and kept it going. Chris has got the relationship and the friendship with Nigel. We agreed to buy it in the summer 2023, and it took a year to buy it, so it wasn't a quick sale for Nigel. And it's all about that relationship, 10-year relationship that Chris has had with him, that helped Nigel have the patience with us while we bought it. This is the situation. We're in danger of losing the deal because Nigel might pull out. Can you get us a bridge, or can you replicate this? Could you replicate this? Or can you get one bridge for all of it, just for a quick purchase? We switched brokers, went with a different lender, but it meant starting the whole thing again. Then we had problems with our investor. He had a bigger tax bill than expected, so he reduced the amount of lending. So we had to, rather than working with one investor to fund the deposit and the purchase costs, we then had to replace him.
Really good relationship with Nigel allowed you to keep him interested and trust you will see this through. Is Nigel even aware of this whole mess you're in, or not? Okay.
My general policy is over communicate and honesty. An experience of giving bad news to investors, like on the Marples with COVID and the bank shutting, it was impossible. We physically couldn't do anything to refinance off the first mortgage onto a new mortgage and release the equity. On the Marples, we bought at 1.5 million and it was valued at 3 million. So when we switched to a new product at 3 million valuation, it released enough equity to fully clear all the debts and investors that we'd had, even with an additional 12 months interest payments. But in that 12-month delay, I was regularly communicating with our 4 or 5 investors. Bad news, the banks are still closed, we can't refinance, I've still got your money, I can't pay you back, I know you're asking for it, but I don't have a couple $100,000 in my personal bank account and the money's tied up in the property. There's nothing I can do, it's a global pandemic. It's very easy to give them good news. We're on track, we're on budget, we're going to be early, I'm going to pay you back on time. It's harder to have a conversation to say, this has happened, this is the consequence, I'm going to be 6 weeks late paying you back. This has happened, there's a problem, I'm going to struggle to pay you back fully, or whatever that difficult conversation is. You've got to have the hard conversations as well as the easy conversations.
And I appreciate, the times were very, very difficult for a lot of people,
Yes,
and
they were,
even
yeah.
those that did have money. Because let's go into issues of that one of your investors. It's COVID times, and they invested some money, but everything can change. A lot of people needed a lot of help during those years.
Yep.
And if I'm one of those person who I have money, but it's no longer in my account, is in Richie's account, and actually, you're due to give it to me tomorrow, and I'm now hearing that I'm not going to see that money. How did you manage those very difficult conversations? Here, this is where you as a dynamo really, really actually shining, because you're a people person. So help us understand how you managed those conversations, and how you leverage on those relationships.
It changed person to person. Some people needed to rant and vent and get angry and shout, and that's me. They take that out on me. They know it's not my fault. There's nothing I can do about it, but I'm the one who's got the money, so I'm the one who takes the flak, and they have the bad emotions and feelings and shout at me. There's others that can understand it. Right, what are you doing? What can we do? Can you give me anything back? What's happening? And just have a strained but normal conversation.
Clarity, honesty, transparency is what you've employed before you even took the money from your investors.
Yeah.
Listen, people, take a good learning, and just anticipate scenario A, B, and C. People would love that, because they know you're prepared, and they know you're actually looking at all of the different opportunities, and even what happens if I fail.
Absolutely.
Wow, Richie. Okay, I think a good breaking point will be safe storage.
Yes.
Why did you go into a safe storage? Tell us about that.
So, City Safe Storage, self-storage business. A couple of years after buying the Marples, the big 48-bed place, we had the opportunity to buy the freehold, and the freehold came with the lower ground and upper ground, 2 floors, because we'd just bought the residential bit from floor 1 up to floor 5 previously on a long lease, and then we had 2 commercial units. One of them was tenanted and occupied, and the other one had been empty for about 5 years. We could fit 4 studio flats in there. That would have cost about 100k, and it would have grossed almost £3,000 a month at the time in rent. If we let it out to a commercial, it would have brought in £1,100, £1,200 a month rental income.
But completely hands off.
But completely hands off on a 5-year, 6-year, 9-year, and it's city centre, high street location. So who knows what's happening with high streets and stuff, and how strong a tenant we would get. I had the idea of, let's start our own business, let's run a business in there, so we can pay our freehold company the rent, so we get to keep that in a different company, and then the profits and the income in whatever commercial business we start in there, we also get to keep the profits in that business. Been doing Dan Hill's property entrepreneur course for a couple of years, his program, and Susie Carter presented on it. She does loads of commercial stuff. She's really good and knows her stuff. And she talked about 10 commercial waves, opportunities that are coming, and one of them was self-storage. I've never been in a self-storage facility. I've never used self-storage before, and I suggested to Chris, let's start a self-storage business. Let's do city centre location, because when you go to self-storage, you go to a big operator, you've got a massive building on the outskirts of town. There's keys and padlocks, and you've got to have a car to go there, really. If you haven't got a car, you can't go there. There are so many businesses and people who live in city centres that don't have a car. Let's offer some self-storage to them. Not knowing anything about it, and having this idea in the December, 2-3 months after we bought the freehold, and we opened in the September. So it's a 9-month journey to let's learn about self-storage, to opening the first facility and opening the first site.
You don't know anything about the self-storage, but just a moment ago, you've listed pain points of people using a self-storage. So tell me about that approach. So how did you find the problem, and how you solved the problem?
Self-storage is an established business. I think last financial year it hit £1 billion turnover in the UK. So it's growing. There's the UK Self-Storage Association. They've got loads of information on their website. An annual report comes out with loads of stats and figures. It turned out to be quite easy to do it. I had a UK-based virtual assistant to do some research, go and do some mystery shopping, and go and view a couple of storage units. She discreetly walked in, was taking photos with her phone underneath her coat, and doing some videos and stuff of the units for me.
Some spying stuff.
Yeah. How do you get into it? how do you secure your unit? How often can you access it? What are the costs? And spent a couple of months doing all of that. On the business cycle bell-shaped curve, first mover advantage is gone. It's in the upward growth before it gets to market saturation. We don't know where that market saturation is, but it's a growing industry. America is one of the most advanced self-storage countries. There's about 9 square foot of storage available per person living in America. In the UK, it's 0.8 square feet per person.
Oh my God, what a difference.
It's a huge difference. So storage is growing, it's getting more popular, it's a good industry to be in. There are companies that will do your marketing, the sales, the maintenance. There's the security companies linked in with the CCTV monitoring and stuff. And like property, there's loads of different niches. Do you do caravan? Do you do vintage cars? Do you do safety deposit box storage?
So many different options. So how did you came to analyze that need and solving those problems? Because it was like, if we know what problems we can solve, it's almost like the equation for any business.
The problem we're solving, our USP, is city centre location, 24-hour access, walk-in facility.
Do you have to have a key or something to get in?
No. So high technology. I don't want to pay someone to be on site all the time because that limits your opening hours and stuff. So we're high technology, 24-hour access with good security monitoring and stuff in there as well. An app on your phone will open the front door, which is pretty much on the high street of Sheffield. Once you're through that front door, the same app will unlock your unit. So there's no keys or padlocks. If you miss a payment to us, the app will automatically stop working.
Very convenient, yes.
Yeah, very
convenient. You're
convenient.
not paying.
You're locked out.
And obviously, you want to pay because your stuff is inside.
Yes, yeah. So it's like an HMO, but you haven't got any of the rules and regulations for soundproofing, fireproofing, and you haven't got tenants stealing your milk and clogging up the bathroom and the shower and stuff. You're just sort of storing people's stuff. So it's
That's a crazy idea, Richie. How about if we had this stuff in our HMOs and we could, like, if tenants not paying, that's it, you lock them out.
House. Yeah, it'd be so much easier, wouldn't it?
Oh my God, it would be so much easier. Wouldn't have to worry about Section 21.
Yeah.
Going back, you could have turned this into residentials and you could pocket 3,000 before any costs. So on the long lease, you could have pocket about 1,100, did you say?
Yep.
So how much are you getting a return on current setup as a storage?
You're right with those deductions, but there's also finance costs. We'd have the mortgage to pay for out of those costs as well. It's depending on occupancy, ranges from 30 to 45% profit margin. We've got a small electricity bill. There's no water, there's no ablutions or anything. It's just electricity that's in there. The CCTV security monitoring stuff, the website hosting, a small percentage fee to Stripe, who process the payments and chase people for payments automatically and stuff. The operating costs and Google Ads. Without Google Ads being in there, it's probably less than £600 a month to run, £500 a month to run. And at the moment, I think our Google Ads are about £300. So it's £900 a month to run it. If you're 100% occupied, you can't get any new clients in. Whereas if you get to 85% occupancy, you can then do a massive price hike on the remaining rooms that are available. Storage is a needs business. People pay for it when they need it.
When you go to Airbnb system, and I know they've got dynamic pricing system depending on your occupancy, is that something that you've got set up in your business as well?
Yes, the platform we use to host the website, process payments and do all of that stuff, they offer that. The majority of self-storage businesses turn up in these set opening times. There's a receptionist and you've got a key that opens the padlock for your unit. And everything is manual. They're going to change the prices and stuff. The cost for a big national operator is very, very expensive and logistically difficult because they need to contact every single client and say, at this time on this date, we are going to be changing the key and padlock to this system. And it'd be very difficult to do a whole facility over a couple of days because people will say, no, I don't want you going in my unit without me being there, or no, you can't go in my unit, you can't open the door. It's a lot of costs for the old businesses to come up. Most people hide their prices on the websites and you put your details in and you get a phone call from the sales team who try and do your hard sale over the phone.
I've done that, I know.
Yeah. I show all the prices. I'm transparent with that, and we do active revenue management. When you've been with us so long, there'll be a price increase because you've probably come in on a discounted offer and something. We offer the first month 50% off to get people in, and then through revenue management, we increase the income or the rent they're paying. People don't like changing their car insurance. It's even harder to change your self-storage unit. You need to take a half day out of your life to physically go there, empty the stuff, and either take it home or take it to a different storage company if you're changing storage companies, for example.
Simon Zucchi's on his program, he was talking on these. If you design the property in a way that is very convenient, with lots of storage for your tenant, they won't leave because it will be really hard for them to find something similar to what you're offering. And that's exactly what you did with your self-storage.
Yep.
Well done to you, Richie. Absolutely well done. So, a 16 block of flats, the self-storage, the 48-bedroom HMO, 6-bedroom HMO. The dream was to achieve a financial freedom, it's life-to-work ratio balance. Have you reached that point already, Richie? When did you reach that point?
I time track the hours I work. For the last 15 months, I've averaged 25-hour working weeks, managing several different businesses and property stuff. We home educate our boys, so it gives me loads of flexibility to do stuff with the family, be around as my boys are growing up and stuff. So I'm not where I want to be yet financially. I've still got ambitions and goals and stuff, but I'm a lifestyle entrepreneur. I'm not working 50, 60 hours a week to achieve that as quick as I can because my boys are only young once. So I'm working very, very smartly to leverage my time as much as possible so that I'm doing the big high impact bits. My EA is brilliant and she takes so much off me and does a lot. I've got Chris, he does the bits I don't like doing and I do the bits he doesn't like doing. The setup lets me work 4 or 5 hours a day, and the rest of the time I can be around the family, I can exercise, I can do my own things. I've got good work-life balance at the moment. Always want more time, but doesn't everybody, and that's why we're doing this.
Absolutely. And as we've already learned from your experience, it's not everything was sunshine and rainbows. You've actually managed to face those challenges. And this is something I would like to ask you. What is your unique way of managing with those challenges? Because not everyone is Richie Miller. So what would be your advice to people when there's a lots of setbacks, especially at the very beginning? So how to stay resilient before you see results of your hard work and keep going?
The one line that sums it up is it's going to be it's simple, but it's not going to be easy. One of the questions I don't like is, if you knew now the problems and the troubles and stuff, would you still have done it? It's a non-question. You can't answer that. Life happens. Life is the decisions you make on a daily basis. Am I going to get up? Am I going to do some mobility exercises? Am I going to get my heart going? Am I going to do some steps? I'm going to listen to some podcasts. I'm going to learn something. I'm going to go to a networking event in the evening. I'm going to go to the gym. I'm going to buy some organic food rather than highly processed food. It's the small decisions you make every day that are going to change your life. For most people, they want more money and less time working. I want to be in charge of their time. They want time freedom and financial freedom. If you want that and you haven't got it right now, you need to make changes. If you don't make changes, you're not going to get what you want. You're going to get more of what you've got at the moment. It's very difficult to do that on your own. If you've got a coach or a mentor or a peer group, whatever it is, that motivates you to make changes. It's very simple to say all of that. It's very, very difficult to do that. It doesn't matter who you are, what background you've got, what education you have or don't have. It's, do you want something enough to make changes and take action?
If you always did what you always do, you will always have what you always get. Richie, previously you mentioned about the 3 key elements that make this an easier success. Could you just give me them once again?
You need 3 things. Whether you're investing in stocks and shares, property, whatever it is, you need knowledge, time, and money.
On many occasions, we have time that we waste. Richie, I understand you help people. So could you just tell the audience how you could advise people to recognize their time, and this is commonly said, I don't have time. What
Yep.
do you say to people when they come and tell you, I don't have time?
People have emotional attachments to it. Some people like to be encouraged. Some people like to have a stick thrown at them before they do something. Is it the carrot and the stick? Time is exactly the same for everybody else. We all have the same number of hours and minutes in the day. It comes down to choice and how you spend that time. Do you roll out of bed straight onto the laptop and start work if you're working from home? So, Greg, how do you spend your time is the first question. Look at your phone, look at screen time. How much time do you spend on social media? Where are you spending your time at the moment? If you don't measure it, you can't make changes, you can't control it. So
There you go.
start some kind of time management, time recording. I use Clockify. Keep it really simple. When I first started doing it a couple of years ago, I had a reminder 36 hours later that my first timer was still going. It didn't work. I had to stay at it for a few weeks, a few months before it became habit. And now I can download a monthly, quarterly, or the annual reports and get a breakdown. I spent this many hours on property. I know that my property income in that time period was this. So I know what my hourly rate is on property. I can do the same on storage, on mentoring, and on the agency stuff. It's really simple. Measure your time.
What is the definition of success for you? You now work to the level of where you're able to spend 20, 25 hours a week at work, and the rest of that time is given devoted to your family. I think in my eyes that's a definition of success. Richie, well done to you. You co-founded an Elevate. So tell us about what is Elevate about.
So elevate property mentoring. Chris and I do this. Chris had never done any kind of personal development or anything before, and he never even considered, why don't I buy them apples? He'd never looked up at the first big deal. I owe a lot of my success to the network and the people I know, and people having a coffee with me, giving me some advice and just chatting and sharing the journey with them. So elevate property mentoring is our way of giving back. It's a side business, it's a passion project. I genuinely like helping other people and seeing them progress and helping them solve their problems and stuff. So elevate property mentoring is our way of doing that. So our niche is helping people buy their first big deal.
Wow. Well done. And just before we wrap up and before we finish, have you got a favorite quote that you could share with the audience today?
If you want to go somewhere, ask someone who's been there before. There's no point asking someone who hasn't been where you want to go. I want £1 million a year relatively passive income from property portfolio. I'm not going to ask someone who's on the same first networking event because they haven't been there. They haven't got that. Find someone who's been there, ask their advice. I think
Wow,
that's my
Richie, thank you so much. This has been really powerful, and I'm so grateful that you found time to be here with me today. And thank you so much once again. It's been amazing, and just a reminder. So, Reach's journey. It's a powerful reminder that with vision, determination, and a strategic action, it's possible to design life on your own terms. Richie, amazing. Thank you very much for today.
Thanks, Greg. It's been great to be here. Enjoyed chatting.
Thank you.